Hello and welcome to this 4-marker challenge where I'll be picking 4 markers at random and making a drawing out of them. This challenge was popular many years ago, but I did not have a YouTube channel many years ago and I've always wanted to try this, so I decided to do it here. So I'm going to be picking 3 markers for the outfit and 1 for the skin tone. These markers right here are what I chose for the skin. So I tried to pick a lot of different colors, not just skin tones, but also some pinks and purples and other colors that I think would be interesting as a skin tone. So here I'm putting all of these markers in a bag and I'm turning it away from my face and then shaking them all around to mix them up nicely before I pick the skin tone. You can see that I'm really struggling here and all the markers are falling out and I have to put them in constantly. But then I reach in and just pick one at random. The marker that I picked ended up being one of my oldest markers actually, and it's really worn out, and it is this one right here. It is a beige tone and I think it's called, there it is, Barely Beige. So a pretty boring start. I was kind of hoping for something cooler like a pink or purple. Here you can see me adding all of the colors from my pencil case into the bag, which already has all the skin tones in it, so I can actually even get another skin tone. And this is how it looks like after I emptied both of my pencil cases. It is filled to the brim, so this is going to be even harder to mix than it was before. But I do the same technique. I lay it on the table facing away from me and then I mix it around and pick a color. First one I got was Warm Gray 4. The second marker that I got is Soft Green, and the third one was a black. So a pretty underwhelming color palette, I would say, and I'm not sure how the warm gray and the colder green is gonna match. Yeah, they don't really fit well together, but we're gonna try our best here. So I first decided to make some sketches just to see sorta in what direction I want to take it and also try out these colors to prepare for the final drawing. So first I add the colors on the top just so that I can keep them in mind while I am drawing, and then I start on my sketches. So I made 2 tiny little sketches. The first one was a tiny little elf girl, and the idea behind this one is that she was supposed to be a little bit sassy and maybe a bit more tomboy, because I feel like that color palette that we got fits within that. The green color that we got also just kind of reminds me of elves for some reason, so I thought I couldn't get that idea out of my head. So that's why this girl turns into an elf later on. Yeah, right here she is an elf, and then I try to make her more tomboy by giving her some cargo pants or cargo shorts, I guess, which the idea was to make green. So that was pretty much it for the first drawing. I wasn't really a big fan of this design. I thought it was kind of plain and basic, so I wanted to go with a stronger concept for my next drawing, and that was to make maybe something more medieval. The black and the gray color kind of reminds me of maybe armor or swords or something like that, so I wanted to add some of these elements into this one. So first I start by making the face and then I make a dress. I'm a big fan of the sort of old-timey dresses and I wanted to make something like that, even though the color palette doesn't really fit that much into it, but we have very limited colors here to work with and we gotta make the best of what we got. And I also decided to make this one into an elf to make it a bit more interesting, and again I felt like the green just reminded me of elves. To match the dress, I also decided to make an old-timey hairstyle, so I went with braids in front of the ears and then a middle part, and then the hair is in this horn shape. I've seen this somewhere before, I don't know where, but I really like the idea and I think it's really cute. Here I add her face. I wanted her to look quite aloof and just emotionless, so I just added some simple eyes and just a line for the mouth, and then I added her arms because here comes the sword element, because I wanted to add a sword to it. So I made hands that looked kind of like they're holding a sword, not really because I can't draw hands, and then I drew the sword. And then I just tested out the colors lightly on the paper just to decide where I wanted these colors to be. So I chose, of course, green for the hair and then these beige color for the skin, and then I added the blacks and grays on the dress and a little bit of the green, which yeah, I'm still not really sold on this color palette yet, but you know, we're gonna make it work. So then I take out my trusty little sketchbook that I have all my marker drawings in, and then I start sketching. Soon enough though, I realized that it's a really tiny sketchbook and we're making a really large character, or like a long character, so it's not gonna fit very well on the page. So I decided to bring out these old marker papers that I've had laying around for years, and I'm finally gonna be putting them to good use and trying them out. So they are incredibly thin, which I did not expect because they're supposed to be leak proof, but they held up surprisingly well. There's no leakage, it doesn't go to the other side. So that was a pleasant surprise, even though it's really thin and it looks like it's low quality, right? But here you can see it doesn't bleed through, even though it looks like it does. Then I just add the colors on top, of course, so that I remember the colors and start drawing the drawing. So this is the same process as when I did the sketching in the sketchbook. I just sketch out the exact same drawing, maybe a bit more detailed. Like I added some extra ruffles on the bottom of the neck thingy, and then I added more of a fabric texture around the chest area, which was before just some lines, just some stripes. I also make the hands a bit more detailed, even though they look absolutely horrendous and do not look like hands at all. But we're gonna look away from that because I am not a hand artist. Then I add the ears, and then I try to make her hair again. And I struggle a little bit with the eyes. You can see that I have already erased them a couple of times by the markings on the face because I couldn't get it as pretty as the sketch, which is a common thing for me. The sketch always looks a lot better than the final product. Here I start on the line art. I am mostly a digital artist and I have been drawing digitally for many years and have kind of abandoned the traditional way of drawing, so my line art is not good anymore. It's really wonky and weird. I also have quite shaky hands, so the lines are a lot shakier, and yeah, it's just not a good time for me. I'm also really out of practice with markers, and I think I would have done better on this drawing if I drew it about 5 years ago. My style has definitely gotten better, and my way of drawing and autonomy and all that has gotten better, but my line art, or line art the traditional way, and my marker skills have really declined, and I really want to get back into it because I remember loving markers and I have so many of them. So I'm gonna try to be using them more and make maybe more videos with them. After the line art is finished, it is time for the markers. I chose green for the hair, and in the beginning I just went ham with it, but then I realized that I don't have a lighter color, so I have to make space for the highlights. So I do not paint or color where the highlights are supposed to be. So I fixed that up, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't realize that until I had colored the whole side of the head, but that's something that can hopefully be fixed with a gel pen later on. Then here I go in with the skin tone, or the beige color, and it wasn't going all that well. It's really dry, so I actually had to change tips and go from the chisel one to the larger one for that last part of the face, and it's still really patchy, so not great, not a great start. And then I to do a little bit of shading, because we can't really shade all that much with the same color, I decided to go with a gray tone, which does make her skin tone look a lot more dead, but I had to sacrifice her liveliness for details. I do the same with the hair and add the gray for shadows. And it actually looks pretty good on the hair, which I was not expecting since it is a warmer gray on a colder green, but it works. I add some more green on the fabric on her chest, and I do the same thing that I did with the hair, where I leave a little bit of space for that highlight, just to bring a little bit more depth to the drawing. The collar and some parts of the sleeves I make gray, which It's not really a huge reason for it, it's just that we have very limited colors, so I just had to put the gray somewhere, and this seemed to be the best place. When making the sword, I decided to go with black for the handle and then gray for the blade itself. And what I did here, that it was a huge mistake, is that I didn't leave room for the highlights, which was kind of sad because it could have been a lot better and could have given it that depth that it needed. So that's one of the things that I regret most about this drawing. And then here I also just take the same marker that I had used and I shade them where they need to be shaded. And I also think that adds a lot more to the drawing and it looks kind of good. I hadn't really decided on a color for the skirt in my sketch, but I decided on green because it fit the fabric that is on her chest. Here I also forgot to do the highlight thing, but I don't think it was really necessary to have it on this one, although it would have been a nice little touch. It felt weird to have the corset white, so I decided to go in with the skin tone and add that in there, and then we also get a little bit more of that beige color in the drawing, which I feel like was much needed. Then she gets some green eyes because that was kind of the obvious choice here, and I try to shade them the best I can by using gray. And then I also wanted to try putting blush color on her, so I tried that on the sketch first and I didn't like it. So I decided to just go with the skin tone again and just double layer that and hope for the best, and it actually worked pretty well. So I definitely should have done that earlier and maybe on other parts of the face as well. Here I add some more details into the eyes with my liner, and then I put that gray color in there and shade it a bit better, and then I go in with my gel pen for those sweet highlights. So first I put them in the eyes and on the nose, and then I try that place that I forgot to leave highlights on. Then I also added a little bit on the clothes because they were just really two-dimensional and needed a little bit more depth. Same with the metal gloves, and then I tried some other places. But then, eventually, it started working less and less, as you can see here when I'm trying to give the dress a highlight, so I could not highlight the sword. So I was really pissed about that. Anyway, this is the final result. Could I have tried to get more depth into it? Yes, definitely, but I wasn't feeling it. I'm still quite happy with this one, and I think she turned out really cute. That was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye!